The skies tremble and adversaries shudder as America unveils its ultimate game changer, the F-47 Condor, a $50 billion titan of air superiority designed to dominate the skies in ways no enemy ever imagined possible, especially China, whose aerial ambitions just hit a wall of American steel, stealth, and unmatched technology. This isn't science fiction. This is the next era of U.S. air dominance in full-throttle action, forged in black-budget research labs, developed under top-secret Pentagon oversight, and now emerging from the classified shadows with one purpose: to end the fight before it begins, and to crush any threat in under 30 seconds. The time it takes for an F-47 to identify, lock, strike, and eliminate its target with beyond hypersonic precision. Powered by twin quantum vector fusion engines that generate over 150,000 pounds of thrust, and equipped with AI-driven targeting systems capable of calculating enemy movement patterns before they're even made, the F-47 doesn't just fly. It predicts, adapts, and obliterates, achieving full-spectrum battlefield awareness via satellite-linked neural networks and drone swarm coordination. From its diamond fiber carbon titanium skin that renders it invisible to current generation radar, to its zero-sound supersonic cruise capabilities, this is the most advanced fighter jet ever to touch the sky, and it's already rewriting every rule of aerial warfare. Insiders call it Ghost Alone, for its ability to strike undetected and vanish before any countermeasure even registers. But to military analysts around the world, it's something else. A terrifying leap in offensive air combat, capable of neutralizing Chinese J-20s and Russian Su-57s before they even break formation. Let's not forget its revolutionary weapon suite, featuring the XM-99 Skylance, an electromagnetic railgun missile that reaches Mach 12 in under 4 seconds, armed with programmable warheads, and the Plasma Sphere Defense Net, a 360-degree energy field that incinerates incoming threats including hypersonic missiles, drones, and radar-guided projectiles before they reach the fuselage. This is more than a fighter. It's a flying smart fortress designed to operate solo or command entire strike groups from midair, serving as both hunter and overwatch, commander and executioner. The $50 billion price tag may shock the average citizen, but in terms of national security, this is the cost of owning tomorrow, of ensuring freedom isn't just defended, it's projected with unstoppable force. And if you're wondering where it was built, look to the Nevada desert, to Lockheed's Project Eclipse base, where DARPA scientists, aerospace engineers, and AI theorists fuse human ingenuity with machine learning to birth a monster the world was never supposed to see, but now must reckon with. The F-47 can take off vertically, land on a single retractable pad, and refuel midair using its adaptive magnetic coupling with the new Stratotanker X fleet, allowing for limitless range. The cockpit is pure future, a 360-degree holographic HUD connected directly to the pilot's neural feedback helmet, allowing them to control weapons, flight vectors, and evasive maneuvers using only thought, reducing reaction times to near zero and turning human instinct into weaponized precision. In combat simulations, the F-47 outperformed every aircraft in the U.S. arsenal, including the F-22, F-35, and even the hypersonic X-59, eliminating 97 out of 100 enemy targets before they could retaliate. And when pitted against AI-controlled adversaries based on Chinese and Russian tech, it achieved total battlefield control in under 27 seconds. But the real kicker isn't just speed or stealth. It's how the F-47 redefines the very concept of war, with autonomous defense drones that deploy mid-flight, create a digital jamming zone, and cloak allied aircraft within a moving shadow of invisibility. This means that in a contested theater like the South China Sea, the F-47 can operate undetected, eliminate hostile radar installations, and coordinate naval and space assets for simultaneous multi-domain strikes, all without ever being spotted. For China, whose J-20 Mighty Dragon was once hailed as a fifth-gen rival to the U.S. F-22, the appearance of the F-47 is nothing short of a nightmare, a generational leap that renders their fleet obsolete and vulnerable, and Beijing knows it, scrambling now to counter a ghost that leaves no trace, a jet whose sonic signature is muted by quantum dampeners and whose weapons are so fast, so smart, that even satellite defense networks can't track them in real time. The F-47 isn't just deterrence, it's dominance, a tool of psychological warfare as much as aerial supremacy, because when enemy pilots hear it in the air, they know their time is up, and behind every flight lies decades of innovation, trillions of terabytes of simulation data, and test pilots pushing limits at Groom Lake and Area 62, where speed. Barriers were shattered and flight physics rewritten. China, already rattled by America's hypersonic progress and naval buildup, now faces an airborne adversary it cannot counter, a flying brain that rewrites war in the time it takes to blink. And this matters, because in the volatile chessboard of modern geopolitics, air superiority isn't optional. It's the opening move, the checkmate, and the insurance policy against rising threats. Critics will ask, is this overkill? But the truth is simple. In a world where wars can be lost in minutes, the U.S. needs jets that win in seconds, and the F-47 is exactly that, a dominator, a guardian, a force so advanced it doesn't just win air battles, it erases them from happening. With a wingspan shorter than an F-15 but more firepower than a full squadron, with stealth that absorbs light and systems that scramble enemy data feeds. The F-47 doesn't just operate in the air, it owns it, bending the sky to American will and reminding adversaries that when it comes to defending freedom, the U.S. does not play fair. It plays to win, and with the F-47, it's already won before the fight begins. But what truly separates the F-47 from every aircraft ever conceived isn't just its speed or stealth, it's its brain. The onboard AI combat core known as HELIOS, high-efficiency lethal intelligence operational system, a neural network trained across over 10 million simulated dogfights, real-time battlefield data, and strategic war game scenarios, giving this aircraft the ability to make split-second kill-or-don't-kill decisions faster than any human could possibly react. It's a ghost in the machine that learns as it flies, adapting to new threats, hacking into enemy radar, and even rerouting missile guidance systems mid-flight to throw enemy weapons off course before they ever reach U.S. assets, and in coordinated operations. HELIOS links multiple F-47s together through quantum encrypted relays, allowing each Condor to act not as a solo jet, but as a node in a flying hive mind strike force capable of swarming entire regions with lethal, coordinated precision. And if that sounds terrifying, it should, because the Pentagon didn't build the F-47 to maintain balance. It built it to shatter the balance of power in favor of American skies, American bases, and American dominance in a world edging closer to high-tech conflict every single day, especially in the Indo-Pacific, where China has rapidly militarized artificial islands, deployed anti-ship ballistic missiles, and tested stealth jets as it eyes Taiwan, Japan, and the open ocean beyond. But for every DF-21 and J-20 China fields the F-47 counters with airstrike invincibility, evading lock-ons with advanced thermal cloaking panels that shift temperatures in real time to mimic sky ambient readings, making it effectively invisible to infrared sensors, while its angular cloak geometry refracts radar and sonar, reducing its detection signature to less than that of a metal bird, literally smaller than a pigeon blip. But it doesn't stop there, armed with dual-bay rotary weapons pods capable of launching Skylance, hypersonic penetrators, Falcon Spear EMP warheads, and Raptor Cloud anti-satellite drones. The F-47 can take the war vertical, striking from low orbit if necessary, and in multi-theater simulations, it proved capable of escorting B-21 raiders into denied airspace while disabling Chinese A2/AD networks across the South China Sea, punching holes through layered defenses with surgical speed, and disappearing into thin air before enemy commanders even knew they were under attack. And for those worried about pilot fatigue at such extreme altitudes and G-forces, don't be, because the F-47's cockpit is essentially a smart exosuit with pilot vital sign stabilization, neural enhancement injectors, and full synthetic muscle assistance to prevent blackouts and ensure flawless control at Mach 5 plus maneuvers. But in the future, many believe the pilot won't even be needed, as unmanned autonomous strike variant of the F-47 are already being tested under codename Raven Mirror, outfitted with next-gen decision-making cores that can execute entire missions without human intervention, raising eyebrows in defense circles worldwide about the dawn of true AI-powered warfare. But for the U.S., it means future wars will be fought faster, safer, and with lethal precision unmatched by anything humans alone could accomplish. Meanwhile, China is scrambling. Its J-20s and J-35s, though impressive on paper, lack the battlefield integration, the adaptive stealth, and the modular drone networks that make the F-47 such a dominant platform, and even their newest radar systems cannot reliably track or target the Condor once it enters cloak mode, a feature enabled by morphing fiber skin that changes shape midair to absorb and redirect sensor waves, essentially cloaking it in plain sight, even to satellites. And this matters because in the world of modern combat, the first few seconds decide everything. The first detection, the first missile lock, the first countermeasure, and the F-47 takes all of those away from the enemy, flipping the script in America's favor every time it enters the sky. And while China continues to boast about drone swarms, artificial intelligence, and railgun destroyers, the F-47 has already integrated counters for all of them, aerial drone interceptor arrays that identify swarm formations and burn them out using directed microwave pulses, laser-guided adaptive targeting that isolates high-value targets in real time, and smart decoys that confuse entire radar networks by projecting multiple false signatures, while the real jet moves in for the kill. And it's not just about warfare, it's about message. When the F-47 flies near contested airspace, it's not just a threat, it's a declaration. The U.S. owns the edge, controls the altitude, and writes the rules. And that psychological advantage is just as important as any missile, because it tells adversaries one thing: you cannot win here. Not now, not ever. And yes, the cost was astronomical, $50 billion for development, prototyping, testing, and early production. But what price do you put on total air supremacy in the era of drone-killing satellites, supersonic ballistic threats, and rising global tensions? When American soldiers need air cover, the F-47 delivers it in seconds. When naval battle groups need overwatch against surprise aerial assault, the F-47 secures a 1,000-mile radius with sensor dominance and electronic warfare shields that scramble enemy comms. When enemy commanders try to move pieces on the chessboard, the F-47 flips the entire board. And in war games conducted in undisclosed Arctic conditions, the Condor executed coordinated strikes alongside nuclear subs, stealth bombers, and orbital drones, linking them all through a real-time combat matrix that allowed seamless data sharing and multi-vector assaults, create what some Pentagon insiders now call God View, a battle space where American forces can see, decide, and strike before enemies, even though they're being watched. And while the public only recently learned the F-47 exists, insiders say it's already been deployed in classified surveillance missions near Taiwan and the Spratly Islands, testing enemy radar response and collecting data on Chinese early warning systems without ever triggering alarms. And that, perhaps more than anything, is why the F-47 is a revolution, not a jet, not a weapon, but a new doctrine in and of itself, a flying declaration that in the 21st century, America does not react to threats. It erases them before they begin. So while adversaries pour billions into catch-up tech, the F-47 is already generations ahead, flying faster, smarter, quieter, and deadlier than anything on Earth, rewriting the skies one sortie at a time, and ensuring that the next major conflict won't be decided by mass, but by mastery. And America's got it in the form of the F-47 Condor. It was 200 hours off the coast of Guam when the order came through. Operation Sky Viper was a go, and for the first time in recorded history, the F-47 Condor was being sent not for a test, not for reconnaissance, but for an active strike operation deep within contested Chinese surveillance zones near the Paracel Islands, where intelligence confirmed the People's Liberation Army Navy was assembling a massive mobile radar array capable of blinding American satellite coverage over the South China Sea, threatening to cut off early warning visibility and cripple U.S. naval command in the region. But the Condor was built for this, crafted in secret for the very moment when silence had to be broken by dominance. High above the Philippine Sea, 2 F-47 units, Vulture 1 and Ghost 2, were already climbing past 70,000 feet, cruising silently in stratospheric stealth mode with hull temperatures tuned to the surrounding air, disappearing entirely from thermal satellite surveillance. While inside the cockpits, pilots Major Drew Hawk Landon and Captain Jessica Zero Voss remained eerily calm, voices hushed under the soft glow of HUD readouts, feeding them everything Radar projections, enemy signal triangulation, and real-time intelligence updates on the USS Ronald Reagan Battle Group steaming below the horizon as they approached the no-go line, a digital wall where Chinese defense grids became actively hostile. Helios activated Phase Delta protocols, scanning for electronic anomalies and sending pulse after encrypted pulse through satellite-linked quantum channels to scramble nearby Chinese sensor buoys. And in the command center 8,000 miles away at Offutt Air Force Base, NORAD technicians watched as the enemy radar field lit up with phantom echoes, dozens of false targets pinging all at once, causing chaos across Chinese command terminals, exactly as planned. Within seconds, the two F-47s banked sharply, dropping altitude with controlled power dives, their morphing wing structures adjusting in real time to atmospheric pressure and wind shear, turning them into near-silent arrows slicing through the night sky at speeds approaching Mach 4.8, closing the distance to target in under 90 seconds. Below them, the PLA's Type 055 destroyers floated in a defensive triangle, oblivious to the fact that American death was already upon them. Vulture, one locked onto the main radar control platform with a Skylance hypersonic spear, while Ghost 2 deployed a Raptor Cloud drone burst, unleashing 6 sub-drones each armed with EMP darts programmed to pinpoint and disable tracking arrays without lethal damage, preserving U.S. plausible deniability. And then, silent light flashed in the darkness, the Skylance hitting its mark with precision so surgical that by the time the radar array exploded, the Chinese operators were still trying to identify what had struck them. And seconds later, the Raptor Cloud dispersed above secondary defense installations, frying communication lines and effectively rendering the entire fleet blind, deaf, and alone in hostile waters. The PLA scrambled jets, J-16s launching from a nearby Yongqing airstrip, but it was too late. By the time they were airborne, the F-47s had already disengaged, shooting straight back up to the stratosphere with gravity-bending acceleration, re-entering stealth mode and vanishing from radar like ghosts with wings, leaving behind only smoke, confusion, and a rapidly collapsing Chinese command structure trying to make sense of a battle that ended before it even began. And while Beijing fumed, America smiled, not just because the mission succeeded, but because it confirmed what analysts had long feared. China's entire layered defense model, its famed anti-access/area denial, A2/AD, zone, was completely vulnerable to the F-47's new doctrine of air war supremacy, and in war rooms across the Pentagon, defense leaders reran the footage frame by frame, marveling not just at the precision, but at the F-47's ability to do it all autonomously, with minimal pilot input, allowing human operators to focus on strategic oversight, while Helios handled the execution with inhuman perfection. This wasn't just dominance. It was humiliation, and the international response was immediate. Allies like Japan, Australia, and South Korea privately requested data-sharing agreements for F-47 proximity training, while adversaries like China and Russia accelerated their stealth drone programs in desperation, trying to close a gap that had already grown unbridgeable. And back at Eglin Air Force Base, the next phase was already underway, equipping the F-47 Condors with nuclear-capable payloads under the Valkyrie protocol, a final deterrence measure that turned each aircraft into a strategic strike platform capable of launching suborbital nukes from stealth mode, penetrating any defense system on Earth, and delivering pinpoint devastation in under 5 minutes. Essentially, mobile doomsday switches in the sky. And while military officials refused to confirm or deny the nuclear configuration, defense insiders leaked that the Valkyrie system was in final integration and already passing stress tests at Nellis and White Sands. The world changed that day, not because a battle was won, but because a new truth became evident. If the F-22 Raptor was once called the king of the skies, the F-47 Condor is a god of them, rewriting not just how wars are fought, but how nations think about security, speed, and sovereignty. And perhaps the most terrifying part for America's enemies isn't even what the F-47 can do today. It's what we'll do tomorrow, because the Department of Defense just approved a $200 billion 5-year expansion of the Condor program, involving swarm AI integration, orbital refueling drones, and the next generation Neural Air Command network that will link all American air assets. F-47s, B-21s, UAVs, satellites, and even ground forces. into one seamless war cloud where decisions are made faster than thought. Targets are assigned by predictive analytics, and battles are won before they even start. In this future, wars won't be fought over weeks or days. They'll be decided in seconds, and the F-47 will be the sword that cuts first and deepest. China, for its part, has already begun deploying countermeasures, rolling out the J-35 and the Divine Eagle drone for long-range detection. But those systems are still vulnerable to electronic disruption, especially when Condor units deploy. Black Rain packets. Tiny bursts of encrypted code launched via microburst EM pulse that embed themselves into enemy digital infrastructure, corrupting targeting software and scrambling friend or foe identification systems, often forcing enemy pilots to abort rather than risk blue-on-blue fire. And this is a game America is now playing, not defense, not deterrence, but denial, supremacy by subtraction, where the enemy has no oxygen to breathe, no signals to interpret, no targets to see, and no weapons to fire with confidence. The F-47 isn't just a machine. It's a strategy, a psychological weapon, a phantom in the night sky reminding the world that no matter how many carriers China builds, how many missiles they launch, or how many islands they militarize, America has a final say at 70,000 feet and Mach 5. As word of the F-47 Condor's unstoppable power spread beyond classified corridors and leaked into global intelligence ecosystem, a new kind of warfare began. Not with missiles, but with minds, as governments from Europe to Africa, from the Arctic Circle to the Persian Gulf, scrambled to recalculate their alliances, reevaluate their threats, and reconfigure their defense doctrines in a world where one aircraft, flying faster than the eye can track, and deadlier than any warplane ever conceived, now ruled the skies without challenge, hesitation, or weakness. And while China poured billions into defensive countermeasures, building next-gen surface-to-air missile systems like the HQ-29 and laser-guided plasma turrets developed in hidden labs near Chengdu, every simulation run by the PLA's Strategic Support Force ended the same way. Failure in under 30 seconds, complete airspace breach, and annihilation of high-value targets before a single operator could issue a return fire command. Because the F-47's HELIOS AI didn't just react. It anticipated, learning enemy tactics with each mission and adjusting its behavior faster than any human combat strategist could comprehend, turning every sortie into a living experiment in evolutionary warfare. And while Beijing publicly downplayed the F-47's capabilities, calling them inflated propaganda, behind closed doors they knew the truth. No J-20, no DF-17, no overhyped carrier strike group could stop a squadron of Condors arriving over the horizon at 90,000 feet and Mach 5.2, weapons hot, invisible to radar, and immune to jamming, ready to strike with sub-millisecond precision. As tensions peaked in the Indo-Pacific theater, a flashpoint erupted. Taiwan detected a swarm of Chinese maritime drones moving aggressively toward its southern defense perimeter near the Bashi Channel, clearly intended as a provocation. And before Taipei could respond, the PLA Air Force launched 6 J-35 stealth fighters, flanked by H-20 bombers on a long-range intercept course, all broadcast as a show of force across Chinese state media. But what China didn't show, what they never expected, was that the United States Pacific Command had already scrambled 3 F-47s from Andersen Air Force Base, each loaded with ZeroMark kinetic rods capable of disabling entire squadrons without explosives. And within 7 minutes of liftoff, the Condors had reached combat altitude, acquired their targets, and deployed their kinetic payloads with terrifying speed, dropping from the upper stratosphere like thunderbolts forged in silence, slamming through the airspace with such power that the J-35 formation was shattered mid-flight, their avionics fried and wings ruptured by the supersonic impact shockwaves, and the H-20 bombers turned tail in retreat, fleeing toward the Chinese mainland with their escort vaporized, and their mission failed. Once again, without a single Condor taking damage, because their heat profiles remained undetectable, and their electronic countermeasures blinded every Chinese satellite in the region for 13 minutes, an eternity in modern warfare. The world watched in stunned silence, not just because of what happened, but because of how fast, how clean, how surgical it had all unfolded. There were no long dogfights, no extended radar battles, just pure, unstoppable dominance executed with mathematical perfection, and this display sent shockwaves through NATO and beyond, forcing immediate defense summits in Brussels, Tokyo, Canberra, and Tel Aviv, as Allied leaders demanded briefings on F-47 deployment timelines, integration protocols, and airspace sharing agreements, desperate to stay aligned with the one nation that had leapt decades ahead in aerospace supremacy. Meanwhile, in Washington, the president issued a televised address confirming the Condor's readiness, framing it as a necessary force for peace through unmatched precision. But every adversary heard a different message. Cross the red line, and you won't just be challenged, you'll be erased before you can blink, because the F-47 doesn't play by the old rules of escalation or diplomacy. It is escalation, and diplomacy ends the moment it arrives. Russia, watching nervously from Moscow, accelerated development on its MiG-41 interceptor of the future, but internal leaks confirmed the Kremlin's worst fear. The F-47 had already infiltrated northern airspace multiple times without triggering alarms, slipping past their S-500 systems and mapping electronic weak spots with data so precise it caused an internal purge within their aerospace forces, fearing that a war with the U.S. would be over before it began. Iran, too, saw the writing on the wall after a mysterious explosion crippled their underground drone factory in Isfahan. Satellite images showed no sign of missile impact or manned aircraft, only deep vertical impact scars consistent with ZeroMark rods. And though Tehran blamed local sabotage, global analysts unanimously agreed. It was a Condor strike, quiet and final, and while the F-47 remained officially unconfirmed in these missions, defense circles knew the truth. Whenever destruction was total but undetectable, whenever silence fell before fire, a Condor had flown. And now, with over 120 units scheduled for deployment by 2027, the U.S. has effectively created a new class of aerial deterrent. Faster than hypersonic missiles, smarter than any UAV swarm, more survivable than fifth-gen fighters, and more lethal than any bomber ever built. With next-gen upgrades already in prototype, including adaptive energy weapons, drone hives deployable mid-flight, and self-regenerating hull composites that can repair battle damage mid-mission, using nanofoam plasma memory, a sci-fi fantasy turned battlefield reality, funded by black-budget billions and tested in classified zones across the Nevada desert, the Pacific Rim, and the Arctic Circle, where Cold War turns hot in seconds and condors fly unchallenged. And perhaps the most revolutionary component is Project ODIN, a rumored quantum link system that allows multiple F-47s to share thought patterns, effectively linking their onboard AIs into a single hyperintelligence that processes threat assessments across an entire theater of war, adjusting formations, diverting fire, and executing coordinated attacks without centralized command, making them not just aircraft, but autonomous war packs with collective decision-making faster than any general staff could ever achieve. The implications are staggering. In a potential war scenario, a dozen Condors could decimate an enemy air force, blind missile systems, vaporize radar stations, and neutralize command centers, all within the first 60 seconds of engagement, before ground-based defenses even activated, rendering entire wars unwinnable before a single tank rolled or a single infantryman took cover. This is the new future, and the F-47 is the gatekeeper, the enforcer, the executioner of American will at the edge of global skies. And for all the talk of deterrence and diplomacy, for all the summit meetings and press briefings, every adversary now has to confront a brutal truth. When the Condor flies, death is already decided, because there is no interception, no disruption, no survival. Not for the J-20, the S-500, or the next miracle drone China thinks it can launch.